Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Paul Harrell program. Thank you so much for being with us, and good morning to everybody out there. Anthony Fauci's phone is under fire. It is now in the hands of Senate, I'm going to call them Senate investigators. Who knows? Who knows what's in this phone or the copy of the phone? We're talking about text messages, emails, maybe even things that he's deleted that can be recovered. Who knows? But here's what I want to know. Is there a text on Anthony Fauci's phone somewhere that says, release the virus? Or some variation of this, release the virus now, execute Order 66. I don't know, but I think that this could be some interesting. I mean, we may actually get answers to the questions that he refused to answer the other day. Also, President Trump with a really, really timely executive order. Very thankful that he is trying to do something about this Supreme Court decision, the disastrous decision on birthright citizenship, coming out saying, look, I'm going to use my executive authority to say that you don't have birthright citizenship. Stephen Miller does a great job of explaining that. We've got that. We've got a border insanity segment. We have a trans women are men segment. We've got a Fourth Amendment funeral segment. All of that coming up today on the Paul Harrell program, and you don't want to miss it. The show starts right now.
Paul Harrell program.
All right, folks, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. It is Friday, and I know what that means. I know that everybody, maybe me more so than normal, I am excited for the weekend. I'm going to be real. I love this new schedule. I love the new schedule that we're on. I love being on in the mornings. Don't get me wrong, but there is a little bit of a curve. A little bit of a learning curve to try to get your body acclimated to this schedule. So the weekend I'm very much looking forward to. Rob is with me, my co-host Rob Spencer.
Suck it up, Paul. My goodness. He's been complaining and dragging himself in here all week, but he's like, oh, I love the new time slot. I just got to get myself worked out. So he's looking good today. He's not so tired looking. So
what do you mean tired looking?
You know, you look like you've been run over last couple of days.
My mom did say I looked better yesterday than the day before that.
Listen, you got to listen to Mama. Hey guys, we are glad to be with you on this gorgeous Friday in Arkansas. Don't know what the weather is like where you are. There's a lot of topics that we want to get through today. Looking forward to that. See, there's quite a few viewers today, so we love that. Please engage with us in the chat. I will be monitoring it the entire show, and looking forward to talking about all of the things as we go through Fauci, Trump, and all the topics of the day.
Yeah, so that is our lead story for this Friday morning. Kind of piggybacking off, while we were on the air yesterday, we got the news that the Senate did vote, to move forward with, finding him in contempt for him taking the Fifth Amendment after receiving a pardon. And then kind of late yesterday afternoon, we got the news that, hey, Fauci's COVID iPhone has now landed with Senate investigators as, the contempt vote is kind of going on at the same time. And this is by Callista Hayashi over at jdrucker.com. It says the walls are closing in on Fauci again. Now, again, I'm reading all of this. Look, I'm. By the way, you guys know, I'm reading all of this with certainly hope that we have actual accountability on all fronts. Later on in the program, we're going to talk about this whole Tom Cotton, John Solomon spat, where John Solomon says Tom Cotton is holding up the transcripts that Joe DeGenova needs down to this grand jury in Florida trying to get accountability. Then you've got Tom Cotton says no, and then you've got AG Todd Blanche that says, hey, everybody's getting along great. We love everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, I just want accountability. Like, can we make that happen? So what I'm saying is I approach the Anthony Fauci story with hope, like hope something happens, but I'm not expecting.
You have tempered expectations.
I do.
And I just think that, listen, I think we can all agree that there's been some phenomenal changes over the last 2 years, I guess. Not quite 2 years. The first 2 years of the Trump 2.0 administration here. And I think I love a lot of the things in the big, beautiful bill. And obviously, I think that we just take for granted how great the border situation is right now, when there have been no illegal crossings in the last 14 months. I mean, that's what the reporting is. So versus, and we're going to talk about this a little later in the show, versus these hordes of invaders essentially coming across the border, and you didn't know where they were from, and all of this stuff. And so some of that stuff gets a little bit lost because there's frustrations about the Iranian conflict like lasting too long. There's frustrations about gas prices. You know, inflation's still kind of there. We need it to tick a little lower. Interest rates, all of these things. But he can't fix it all, not right away. But I think that we can all agree that it has been disappointing, the accountability. The accountability that we thought, my God, they tried to bankrupt Trump. They tried to arrest Trump. They even got an arrest on there. They
framed him for treason. They committed treason by framing him for treason.
100%. Everything they accuse us of, they're guilty of themselves. And then when all of that didn't work, they tried to kill him. And so they were doing everything. And we thought, my God, yes. We've got all three, right? We've got the House, the Senate, and the presidency, and we've got the Supreme Court. This is our moment. Perp walks weekly. Mm-hmm. That's what I had hoped for. It's what I had dreamed of, and we just weren't seeing that. I love that Dr. Anthony Fauci is hopefully facing some sort of consequences, but given what we've seen leading up to it, I love Trump. I love this administration, but I'm a little bit tempered as well on what I expect to actually happen.
So here's the story. Back to the story here. A copy of the iPhone he used while running the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease during the COVID years has been transferred from the Department of Health and Human Services straight to the Senate Homeland Security Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. Senator Ron Johnson, Wisconsin, chairs the panel. Quote, hopefully this device will address many of the questions he refused to answer last week's hearing. This is not some dusty archive box. This is the actual device the nation's top infectious disease official carried while decisions were made that locked down churches, shut schools, crushed small businesses. The same device that sat in his pocket while he publicly dismissed the lab leak theory and privately wrote notes that told a different story. Just days earlier, HHS dumped more than 1,000 pages of Fauci's personal journals. He still told the public for years that the market origin was the most likely explanation. Of course, we know he was lying. Last week, he sat before the committee. Let's see here. The phone changes the equation, though. You've got text messages, call logs, deleted notes that might still be recoverable, sure. Communications with EcoHealth, maybe communications with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. That would be actually a great search. Did Fauci, was he in communication with the Wuhan Institute of Virology?
Like, what the hell did you guys do? Did y'all let this out?
Before, during, after the events. The circle of scientists who worked so hard to shut down the discussion of lab origin. Investigators already have millions of additional pages from government servers. So anyway, the phone, and again, I want a text message that says release the virus. Like, execute the order, release the virus now.
Yeah, you can sum up everything that she's pointing to there. The phone calls, the text messages, deleted notes, all of that stuff, any of those communications. You could sum all that up as, is there a smoking gun in there? And that is what we're all hopeful for, because we know the man he's I don't know how many. What are the total global reported deaths from COVID-19? Do you know?
I'm going based on memory because we did a show on this. I did a monologue on this a couple of weeks ago. I think it's something like 7 million. But
okay.
Let me ask an AI or something.
If memory serves, the total Holocaust was about 6.5 million Jews that were exterminated. Now, so somebody I don't want to equate those two things directly, but when you think about sheer number of deaths, if we funded this, which it by all accounts, 7.1 million. Yeah, if we funded this research, this gain of function research, everything that Rand Paul's been talking about, if we funded this for years and they released this evil on the world that infected, now I truly believe a lot of those 7.1 million deaths were not. We talked about this earlier in the week that my father was counted as a COVID death, even though he had a massive heart attack. I'm sure that he was COVID positive, and it probably didn't help, But at the same time, I'm sure some of that because there was such a money grab, especially here in the United States. If you had a COVID death, you got just like this extra bonus from the government. I don't want to go down all this rabbit hole, but if Dr. Anthony Fauci had a hand in that, which we all believe, certainly on our side of the aisle, that he did, that this evil man, and then stood in front of Congress multiple times and said, no, we never did gain-of-function research. Rand Paul brought the receipts and said, the hell you didn't.
Yeah.
And he brought those receipts, served no consequences at that time, right? Because we're still dealing with the Biden administration, and all of these things are happening. All of this evidence is sort of coming out that not only did you know about it, not only did you fund it, but you lied about it. Mm-hmm. Why are you lying?
Right.
If you knew about it and you funded it, okay, then you're going to have to sit there and pass the blame, and that's where we had the stupid ass bat theory and all this stuff.
And I think, and I think there's evidence that we were actually doing the gain of function research here in America. Illegally, and then there was potentially a crackdown coming, and so they're like, okay, well, we want to continue being mad scientists. That's what we do. We're mad scientists. We've got to, and these people are freaks. Okay, and so they want to continue being mad scientists, and so they then fund the parts of the Chinese government that will allow that, and there you go. Now we've outsourced it. So parts of our own government are, I would say, not indirectly. I think parts of our own government, no government is monolithic. Parts of our own government are, in my opinion, directly responsible for the deaths of 7.1 million people. Let's just go ahead. They were using those inflated numbers to basically scare us all to stay home. So now let's use their inflated numbers against them. I think turnaround is fair play when it comes to
I completely agree with it. Listen, it reminds me, and I think you may have mentioned this on the show, gosh, it may have been a year ago, I don't know, but the Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum's line, and just said, they got so involved to
yes,
I don't want to butcher the exact quote, but it's something like, you've been trying and you got so involved seeing if you could, you never stopped to think if you should.
If you should, yeah.
And that's exactly what you're talking about when these mad scientists here with their Frankenstein mentality, and they want to do this, create this thing just to see if they can. And I'm sure that there's some ulterior motive, maybe from a positive and also from the negative side.
Whatever you got to tell yourself. I mean, the fact is Tulsi Gabbard revealed that in Ukraine alone, that they had what I call, and what everybody, we know what they are bioweapons labs.
Yes.
We need to keep that in mind.
Yes.
This is not, maybe we could create a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I know I know I'm making the analogies more direct than they should be. These mad scientists are doing this to figure out how most efficiently or creatively we can kill people. And if you know of anything about governments throughout history's propensity for false flags, the idea of being able to kill somebody and get away with it and blame it on somebody else or blame it on a natural virus from a wet market is something that is very titillizing to these people.
It's a tale as old as time as well. And if Dr. Fauci was truly that man behind the curtain that says pay no attention to this man behind the curtain, all the while standing up there with Trump in the last year of his first term, and then of course with Biden, and like, oh yes, here's what I think. Saint Fauci, we believe everything you say. Shoot your words into my veins, Saint Fauci. These retarded people just followed this man so blindly, and he was potentially, and I think that he was, the man behind the curtain creating all of these opportunities for this evil to exist.
Yeah.
And now he's possibly serving some sort of consequences here. And I just pray that there is that consequence, that something happens and this man has to go through what he put just a tiny bit of the individuals through.
Yeah, it's like he had been a lifer. He's a lifelong bureaucrat. He's in there so long. He's like working his way up the ranks, and then this thing happens, and the Intel oligarchy of the world, like we got a guy, we got a ringer, and he's like, man, I've been preparing my whole life for this.
Yeah,
that's the way I feel. This guy is.
He's
an evil man.
And then the back end of the money situation as well. Carl Ben Jay here in our comments, hospitals averages that ranged from roughly $12,000 to up to $300,000 per reported COVID case.
Good grief!
I mean, listen, if you're a hospital, you're testing everybody. You're running COVID test every 15 minutes. You got it now. You got it now. You got it now.
Yep.
This person's about to die. Test them. See if they're because listen, that's what it is. Even if it's a nonprofit hospital, we've got our two main hospitals here in town are nonprofits. You think they're going for nonprofit that they want to just break even every year? No, it's a profit thing. It's 100%. All about the bottom line. 100%. And so it all comes back to money. It comes back to evil schemes. It comes down to people who want to take over the world.
Here is Senator Rand Paul.
Who deserves so much credit, guys.
Well, he certainly, and he wrote an op-ed in Fox News a couple of years ago where he actually mentioned, we don't hear enough about a guy by the name of Ralph Barrick from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, but he actually wrote an op-ed talking about Ralph Barrick. That's a name that you don't hear enough. But when you think of Anthony Fauci, I believe you also need to think of Ralph Barrick, and maybe we should do a show on that sometime. Here's Rand Paul from the other day.
1 million Americans died, and I think they deserve to know the truth. Anthony Fauci has advocated for dangerous gain-of-function research for 2 decades now. The question why is not a question that he can have liability for. He was given a pardon. Interestingly, the pardon starts in 2014. That's when the funding of the lab in Wuhan started. So I think he should answer questions. As far as pleading the fifth when you have a pardon, all you have to do is tell the truth, just not commit a new crime. But if we were to grant him immunity from telling the truth, of what value, would his testimony be?
Just so everyone is aware, the estimated deaths from COVID-19 worldwide is 7.1 million. And
literally, the guys get the same. I only listened to the Rand Paul part. We got the same stats that we just pulled up.
Yep.
Then we have President Trump being asked yesterday in the Oval Office. I do not know why Twitter is somehow my aspect ratio is off here. This is really frustrating me because it was doing this yesterday, but then it corrected itself. Anyway, here is President Trump being asked about Fauci yesterday from the Oval Office.
Do you think the DOJ should prosecute Dr. Fauci?
Well, they prosecuted Peter Navarro and they prosecuted Steve Bannon, two very decent people, over something that essentially was never prosecuted before. And there are sort of telltale signs of similarity. And they went to jail for a number of months over something that I saw one of the analysts said they used to laugh at it in the Justice Department when something like that was referred. But Merrick Garland prosecuted two very decent people and sent them to jail. I wasn't president. I would have given them a pardon in 2 seconds. But I wasn't. It was after I left. They waited till after I left, and then they prosecuted these two people, and they ought to be ashamed of themselves. So when you see that happen, you sort of say maybe he should. What he did is far more serious than a lot of crimes, frankly. But they prosecuted two people when nothing like that has ever taken place before.
So that does give you a little bit of insight, into what kind of accountability. I guess probably the maximum amount of accountability, because last week President Trump said, we're going to, respect the pardon, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically said, look, the auto pen is fishy, but we're going to respect it. And a lot of people thought that's because, President Trump, for his administration to have any hope of success moving forward, the people underneath him need to know that they're going to be okay if the Dems get back in power, that he's going to pardon them, and then that pardon is going to help them, which is really crazy that is where the cold Civil War has gotten. The cold Civil War in America has gotten to the place where it is now going to be the norm for presidents to pardon their administration before they leave office because the other side wants to go after them and put them in jail, which really will just set up a situation where there will never be any accountability. It will actually make us a class system, like more so than we are now, like a caste system It's
It's
absolutely
going to mirror
insane.
India.
And that's why
Yeah.
we need to go after the Democrats as hard as we possibly can, especially all the ones that are not pardoned. But so it looks like to me, Rob, the amount of accountability we're going to have with Fauci is going to be charges for this and what is that, a 1 year in jail for contempt of Congress, up to 1 year in jail for an 75, how old is this guy, 85 years old?
Yeah. Well, and C. Michaels in our chat said, they got, just as a reminder, they got Al Capone on tax evasion.
Right.
I'll take this for Fauci. God will judge the rest. If we can get him on something, I agree with that. I mean, obviously, I would love to see him being dragged into international courts because of the hell that he unleashed on a global perspective. But the second point that I wanted to make is I think Trump answered that question perfectly, because he didn't say, yes, the Department of Justice should prosecute Anthony Fauci. He didn't say that. He believes yes. I mean, he was saying yes without saying yes, because I think he's gotten the message here that he should not say what the DOJ should do publicly, because then if the DOJ actually does it, it's going to be like, even though the Department of Justice is under the executive branch, you're supposed to be this independent thing, and so much so that if the president were to
that's actually a really good point. You are supposed. Isn't that kind of silly? Isn't it silly to at this point, like who are we actually kidding? Who are we? Why are we continuing to pretend? And maybe there is some sort of ethical aspect to it where where President Trump doesn't call Todd Blanche up and say, I want him prosecuted. I mean, I'm sure that, if that did happen, I guess there'd be some sort of communist whistleblower that would try to make a big deal out of it. But why isn't that the president's purview? It's your job under the Constitution to enforce the law. You are the chief executor. All of these other departments are created by Congress, but you are the authority of it. Does anybody think that it wasn't Barack Obama that was like, hey, Lois Lerner, you're the IRS, you're a bureaucracy under the executive branch, go after the Tea Party. Everybody tried to find the smoking gun, but isn't that exactly what, that's the power that the president has? Like, who are we pretending? I would much rather us just be honest, because we know both sides are doing this. We know both sides have the preferences of who they want to get prosecuted. This idea of like little separation here and there, when everything is, and I guess the idea of it is this idea that, well, there are some things the government does that are just not political, not politically driven, and some of the things the government does are just just about justice. And I think we've learned everything is about politics.
Sure.
Everything is about politics and political and it seems like when the government goes after somebody, there's always a political motivation behind it at this point. Yeah. And I wish it wasn't the case. I wish we could say we have some sort of altruistic, neutral justice system, but you and I both know that's not true. Or Hillary Clinton would be in jail right now.
I agree with you on that. I would say the ultimate decider of every situation is money, because it's money that controls these politicians. It's money that influences these politicians to do the bidding of whatever that money source wants. And that's why, Matt Gaetz was such an outcast here when he wanted single issue bills. Yep. I sounded very Southern, right? Bills.
Well, we got to get them bills passed, at the legislature.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz was just, he's just a really big, he may have also been a perv, I don't know. But I agreed with, when Matt Gaetz was talking, I was agreeing with him.
Look, dude, Matt Gaetz was set up by the Intel oligarchy with that whole thing.
I would believe that for 100%.
I'm pretty sure, at least the last revelation of that, I caught it all. I was convinced, I guess, the revelations of the FBI was actually trying to set him up and frame him.
Yeah. I completely believe all that. And so from what that was, and the reason that Matt Gaetz wanted those single issue bills is because then, these, what do they call them? Pork, all the fat that gets attached to these. There's a term for it. I can't remember. Somebody help me in the chat. But it's they attach all these earmarks. Yeah, all these things get, not earmarks. I don't know. Regardless, you get what I'm trying to say. something that has nothing to do with funding for this, library in California gets thrown on to
bribe people for their vote.
And of course there's a kickback, and it's reason that Nancy Pelosi's worth $130 million here. And so I get how politics work. It's just extremely frustrating, and single issue bills would solve all of that, but they'll never do it because both sides of the political spectrum are guilty of it. That's why we're seeing it.
Yep.
Do you think that John Thune is not being told what to do by his money? His money people are telling him what to do. We've discussed that because he is getting obliterated, 100% obliterated. Excuse me. So the fact that he is willing to take that heat and possibly cost himself the Senate majority, which it maybe looks like they'll retain the Senate, but who the heck knows if Republicans sit home in November? The fact that he might risk that majority and the power that he has at that, it's all because people are pulling the strings on the money side of it. And so I don't know how I got on that topic, but regardless, very frustrating.
I want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. Go to healingveteransproject.us if you would like to donate. You can actually just scan the QR code right there, and you'll go right to the donation page where you can set up a monthly or a one-time donation or annual donation, whatever you want to do. At the Healing Veterans Project, what we are trying to do, and I say we because I'm on the board of this organization and I believe in it, what we're trying to do is restore the lives of those who served our country by deploying medical-grade photobiomodulation red light therapy. Now, I use the term photobiomodulation because that's the scientific term, and you can go look it up and read the papers for yourselves about what this really does. It's a real technology that, acts on the body in positive ways, stimulating the mitochondria in a way that is not pharmaceutical. Okay, we're trying to get this technology into the homes of veterans that have had the technology prescribed to them by a doctor, but the VA won't pay for it. The VA will give them pain pills. The VA will give them, pharmaceutical. They'll put them on the pharmaceutical hamster wheel for the rest of their lives. And the VA does also do some good work other places, but they will not give them what the doctor's prescribing them when it comes to red light therapy. And that's where Healing Veterans Project comes in, and we want to help them out. So lighting the path to wellness, and they are partnered with us here at the Paul Harrell program, and we really, really do appreciate it, and we're stoked about this. Now, the last thing I want to say about it is that if you are a business owner, I want to talk to you about partnering with us. You can email me, paul@healingveteransproject.us. Just got an email the other day from another veterans organization that's excited about what we're doing, and obviously has heard the message the last couple of weeks. I want to set up, if you've got a retail business or you know somebody that's got a retail business, put us in contact. We're trying to give the customers the opportunity to donate at the point-of-sale kiosks, donate $1, $5. This is how we can make a difference in these veterans' lives, by getting them the panels they have been prescribed by doctors. Paul@healingveteransproject.us. Email me if you know a business that's interested. We can make it worth your while. We can even give you a marketing fee, after the donations to help with anything. So do that right now.
Hey, Paul, there was a question about that everybody in our chat basically talking about red light therapy. I was talking with some good friends over lunch yesterday about red light therapy, and it's a great thing, but I don't know. Does it help with long COVID? That might be something to get with Matt on.
Well, the symptoms of long COVID are what? Brain fog, and you tell me. I mean, I feel like the symptoms of long COVID can be a lot of things.
It can be, right? I think, yeah.
I don't know if all I can tell you is if you just feel generally unwell and you can't quite put your finger on it, maybe you have headaches, maybe you have brain fog. From my personal experience, yes, red light therapy helps in a big way. And it may be long COVID, or it may be the fact that you are surrounded by blue light all day long. Dr. Jack Cruz has incredible research out there about how blue light and all of the blue light, how they banned the incandescent light bulb, which was on the red light spectrum. and how the red light is actually good for us. The same frequency that you see when the sun rises and sun sets, that red there, that's a natural frequency. We banned the incandescent light bulb, and everything is a blue light. Even though we have our studio lights today dimmed down because the bright whites were killing me in the morning, this is still technically blue light, and it's it's that constant. It's constantly flickering. If you could slow it down, it's constantly flickering. It's not even a solid. And so that's just what our bodies are being bombarded with. And it sounds kind of weird. It almost sounds like, what are you talking about, this hocus pocus? It's like, well, Western medicine is all about biochemistry, and that's good. I mean, there's good things where we say, hey, the chemistry of it, well, let's counter the chemistry. But biophysics is really not thought of anymore. Biophysics, there is an actual physics, mechanical way your body works, like a giant Rube Goldberg machine, and we're being acted upon by these frequencies and light and everything else. So I would say yes. I would say I'll ask Matt about it, Matt Troy, but I would say generally yes. Long COVID, all those mysterious symptoms, this red light therapy is medicine. You have to think about it as medicine for your body. And if you'll just sit in front of this thing 15, 20 minutes in the morning or 15, 20 minutes at night or both, you will see incredible results, especially after a few days. And so, I mean, I can tell you about, Red Vive. I mean, you hear me talk about Red Vive all the time, but I mean, that's the other thing here that is unrelated to this. But, at Red Vive, this is where you can get direct consumer red light panels. And if you'll use the link, redvivehealth.org/Paul, let me try to find that for you guys. I don't know what I've done with it. But we'll play the ads during the break. But redvivehealth.org/Paul is where you can get these different panels, the 60, the 300, and you save 35% with my name. These are not cheap. These are medical grade devices. I'm the only direct consumer Red Vive does. The rest is through doctors' offices. But you can go to redvivehealth.org/Paul, save 35% of these devices, and you will thank me. And there's a 60-day money-back guarantee. There's also financing available and everything else. So, actually, let's see here. Let's take you want to take a quick break real quick?
Sure.
All right, let's just take a quick break real quick. We'll be back here in a minute. Thank you guys so much for being with us. When we come back, President Trump, what is he saying about birthright citizenship? New executive order out there trying to say, hey, the Supreme Court messed up, and we're going to do the best we can to make sure we end birth tourism and ban it from ever being a thing. Make it a process. Make it a something you can prosecute people for. Back in a moment, folks.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
The other things that we're seeing, more and more use for is even vascular issues. So one of the mechanisms that red light, near-infrared light, or Red Vive works is stimulation of the mitochondria and stimulation of nitric oxide production. So when nitric oxide is released in cells, it vasodilates cells. It reduces inflammation. It moves blood. It brings blood flow to areas. So folks that have issues with ulcers or burns or wounds, it can help stimulate increased blood supply, and you need blood to heal. So that can open up different avenues for peripheral artery disease, for neuropathic pain syndromes. And so that's one of the other areas for nerve injury or nerve pain that we can leverage this type of medicine.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98. Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you, what a concept, now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Happy Friday morning to all of you in the audience, broadcasting from the state of Arkansas here on Live from America TV over on Rumble and YouTube. And folks, wherever you're watching, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to the show. And also, by the way, don't forget about the Paul Harrell Program YouTube channel. We're trying to grow that as well, so always appreciate all the support. But share the show wherever you're listening. Do all the things to help grow the message. President Trump trying to take on birthright citizenship. You know, I think this is definitely a welcome piece of news, considering all the flack Mark Wayne Mullen was getting earlier in the week. And I know, Rob, you had maybe a little bit more optimism behind that than maybe some, but the bottom line is Mark Wayne Mullen probably shouldn't have said, in front of the press about how many people were naturalizing every year or month or whatever. Like, that's something to celebrate. And my point was, if you'll remember back earlier, my main point was because of the birthright citizenship case, we don't want to hear from our HHS secretary how great it is that we're naturalizing, 900,000 people or whatever the case is. We just don't want to hear that. And how that's just not a wise thing to message. When it comes to the volatile midterms and everything else. And so it is very good that President Trump, in my opinion, is at least saying is trying to do something with this ridiculous civilizational suicide ruling out of the Supreme Court.
I'm still so frustrated with the Supreme Court, as I've mentioned on the show many times. I'm one of those weird dorks who's not an attorney or a juror.
I love this about you, because I would have... no offense, I would have never, ever thought that you would be a guy that literally listens to Supreme Court tapes.
Yeah, so I was an attorney in a former life. I'm sure of it.
Yes,
because I love arguing and all of this stuff, and so. But it's just
Do
fascinating.
you love like attorney movies or movies like?
Oh yeah,
what's the one with Tom Cruise where he's got the baseball bat? Is that A Few Good Men?
Did you just say what's this?
Right.
One of the most famous movies in the last 40 years.
Is The Few Good Men the one where it's like
you can't handle the truth?
Can't handle the truth. We're a nation with walls, and somebody's going to stand on that wall.
You remember that part, but you couldn't remember the friggin' name?
Yeah, I couldn't remember
the name. But anyway, so I will listen to these Supreme Court cases, and, of course, these people are far more intelligent than I am. Although the people who argue, against... So in this case, Donald Trump's, the president's person, I guess. I forget his name, but he's got a real, raspy voice. And
RFK Jr.?
No. He's a... He's the one that argues before the Supreme Court.
The Solicitor General, or is it the Solicitor General?
Yeah, and he's phenomenal.
He does have a raspy voice,
but he's so intelligent. Like his brain is moving faster than his mouth will allow it, and he's talking very, very quickly. But anyway, they're fascinating to me. I knew that they were cooked when I listened to it, but I'd had hope because there were some questions back and forth. I thought, man, maybe we could squeak out a 5-4 on this. Ended up being... Well, I guess technically a 3-6, and but Kavanaugh agreed with part of it.
Well, and we were supposed to get it challenged or moved. The government was supposed to move, according to Trump, for an immediate rehearing after the billboards to the hospital saying, birth or tourism, and then the government didn't do that.
Yeah,
didn't do it. Didn't do what Trump said, and then and so maybe they just changed strategies, and now he's doing the executive order.
So that's the point that I was going to get to make, is that I was so disappointed in that case, but I believe that he's doing this specifically knowing that it's going. There's cases being filed today. He did this yesterday.
Yeah.
There are cases being filed today to challenge this. And so what I think this is all about is to get in front of the Supreme Court again, but to go at it from a different perspective,
a different statute, because they did they did say that invaders would not, if they were invaders, I believe, or so, there's some precedent for this, and I just saw a headline about the word invaders, that if they're designated invaders, they would not get birthright citizenship. So people are saying, well, by that logic, if Congress were to declare illegal immigrants invaders, then they wouldn't get, Congress, at some point, Congress has got to actually do something. But again, the donor class wants America to cease being a country and just be an economic zone where you can be born anywhere in the world. And
you have the right
and have the birthright. Your kid's you can, if you get to America, you have my birthright. You have Rob's birthright just given to you. That is insane. That is absolutely insane, and it flies in the face. And it won't last. The way we think of nations, specifically America, and this whole melting pot myth at this point, because this assimilate. But first of all, the whole melting pot thing is talking about a bunch of people from Western Europe that had already been fighting each other for thousands of years and basically worked out their differences, their major differences. And they all came here, and guess what? They were able to get along in a reasonable fashion. Now, well, we want you to come here, but you got to assimilate. Well, assimilation is the exception. It is no longer the rule, and it hasn't been the rule for a very, very long time. This is not Ellis Island. This is, we were talking about largely first immigration from people who were poor, but they were in the first world, not third world barbarians. There's a huge difference here. And so but anyway, here's President Trump yesterday from the Oval Office. Let's take a look.
Do it in a much more forceful manner. But they've taken birthright citizenship and they've made a joke out of it. And we're actually the only country of size, I think just about the only country, period, that does birthright citizenship. I thought we were going to win it at the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, we had a bad decision, very unfair decision. Our country suffers because of it, and we're ending it a different way.
So he says we are ending birthright citizenship a different way. That's the goal here. Now, let's go to Stephen Miller. I believe that's what this clip is, because this is really really good. Stephen Miller.
Yeah, he's explaining it.
Masterclass.
Yeah.
And we're not going to let it happen. So, Steve, if you will, please.
Yes, so today the President signed these two executive orders here relating to birthright citizenship and birth tourism. As the President mentioned, the 14th Amendment was passed exclusively in the aftermath of the Civil War so to ensure that the children of slaves would be citizens. It had no other meaning and purpose outside of that. And that's been clear, obviously, since the day that it was passed. You can go back and you can read the congressional debates. This is not something that's even seriously contested by anybody. The President is using his authority as Commander-in-Chief to sign first an executive order using the new ruling the Supreme Court issued to expand the definitions of people who are ineligible for birthright citizenship. That includes, for example, alien enemies of the United States, members of foreign terrorist organizations, and large categories of people who lobby and act on behalf of foreign governments. And so with taking this action, it ensures that large numbers of people who wrongly would be getting birthright citizenship will no longer be eligible for those benefits. The second action that he's taking, which is especially historic, is for the first time ever in American history to ban birth tourism. So I want you to really let that sink in. This has been something that people have talked about not only for years, but for decades. The idea that people come here pretending to be a tourist, pretending to be a visitor, saying they want to go to Disneyland, or they want to go visit a monument or go to a national park, but the real reason they're here is to have a child, to make that child an automatic citizen, leave our country, and then have a U.S. citizen child. It gives them access under this broken system to welfare benefits, ultimately to the voting booth, and all the other rights and privileges that belong solely to Americans. So that practice of birth tourism is, as of the signing of this order, hereby banned. And what that means is that no one in the world is any more allowed to obtain a visa for this fraudulent purpose. It is probably, and President Trump has done many historic things on immigration, too many to list now, sealed the southern border shut, record deportations, record integrity, stopping foreign terrorist entry, record reduction in drug seizures, dismantling criminal cartels, dismantling the gangs, right? Everything he's done that has been so unprecedented. I would put this in the top three in terms of importance because it ends what has been one of the gravest and most egregious abuses of the American system, and it keeps American citizenship sacred.
Thank you. Okay.
Keeps American citizenship sacred.
Sacred.
I think I think that's a real. You could really kind of you could chew on that for a while, because we have lived, you and I, Rob, our whole life, and most of my life haven't really thought about how sacred it is, because we've cheapened it, because we just give it away.
You might go to a foreign country and feel like, oh wow, check this out. Look how clean the subways are in Japan. Look how look how organized the flow of foot traffic is in Russia, in Moscow. Like you might go there and be impressed with something, or certainly to see all of the sights of Europe. If you wanted to go on the tours and do the cliche, go see the Colosseum and the Eiffel Tower and all of these things might be cool to see. But when you're talking about everyday life, we saw this during the World Cup just a couple of months ago. Yep. We saw all of these people coming from these countries, from Scotland, from England, from all over, that were just having the time of their life. And they're like, America, I owe you an apology. The world owes you an apology. Your country is phenomenal. And they're like walking in, we've talked about all these things that were just so incredible. And it's stuff that they're walking in and marveling at the size of a Walmart supercenter.
Yeah.
How many Paul, just in this we have a small town. We have 2 Walmart supercenters, and we have 3 neighborhood markets, or at least 2 Walmart neighborhood markets.
Stock full of meat, Kroger's.
A super
Harps.
Kroger. Kroger may not be in all parts of the United States, but it is huge. It's the second largest grocery chain, or it was.
They've got an excellent gourmet cheese selection, as you can tell.
Well, I don't like to go into Kroger because they have fresh seafood. It's like it's actually legit fresh seafood, but it makes the whole place smell like seafood.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I'm like, that's raw seafood.
I haven't noticed that.
Anyway, suffice it to say, I think if you grow up here, you don't truly appreciate it. And I think that's what Stephen Miller was talking about here, is that we are in the greatest country on the face of this planet. We have more opportunities. This is where you can go from the gutter to a billionaire just by your own work and efforts and all of that. This is the land of opportunity for a reason. And what you have are people outside of this country that see that, but they're taking advantage of it. Mm-hmm. They're coming in. They're making themselves citizens, and we absolutely need to be consistently focused on the danger that communist China has with this birther tourism.
Yep, making Manchurian candidates is
Correct.
What they're doing.
Because you can have a dual citizenship. They bring them here. They're an American citizen, but they are still a Chinese citizen who owes fealty to their dictator leader.
100%.
And so you are an American citizen. Yes, we want you to go vote. You don't think that they're trying to create their own class here? Mm-hmm. And honestly, I've met a lot of Chinese Americans, whatever the proper term is, very nice people, but they're going to be required to do their government's bidding, or they're going to get called to the carpet as well. This is stuff that we need to be focused on.
Go ahead and read that if you don't mind, Rob. This is J.D. Vance's reaction.
Yeah, so our Vice President, J.D. Vance, our immigration system has been exploited by those who treat citizenship as a commercial transaction, not a sacred bond.
Commercial transaction,
Boom.
Which brings us to our next segment, Borderline Insanity. For this episode, or this segment of Borderline Insanity, we're going to go to this story where a 75-year-old man is very upset. There's mainstream media, CBS, saying he's turning on President Trump.
I'm sorry, we should laugh, but we were discussing as we were going through the show this morning. Like, this was so funny to me.
Let's just listen to this clip here.
Okay.
And some of these people in the older generation, the boomer generation, getting a wake-up call about how serious we are about deportations.
I voted for Trump. I am saying that they are picking up law-abiding citizens. They're destroying families, jobs.
John Gannon is a 75-year-old businessman and lifelong Republican who supported President Trump in 2024.
I wouldn't.
All right, stop. First of all, what is this shot? All right, sir, we're gonna bill you as a businessman,
so have you working.
So we need to have you working.
Yes.
Do your business. And
you've got a Mac here, but you're also taking handwritten notes.
John Gannon is a 75-year-old businessman and lifelong Republican who supported President Trump in 2024.
I wouldn't do that again. Not after this fiasco.
His fiancée, 45-year-old Venezuelan immigrant Yasmin Suarez Reyes, was detained by ICE at George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston in late July.
8 ICE agents swarmed Jasmine and detained her.
I'm sorry,
didn't
this
tell
is not
us
funny.
why,
This is people's
and
lives. It's
rustled
not
her
funny,
off
but
into a car.
stop.
When you saw that on...
Hold up. Damn it. We know what Jasmine is. She's there for a green card, folks.
Everybody, welcome to the station, Jasmine.
Goodness gracious, she is there for a green card. And
no, he makes her feel special, like nobody's ever made her feel before.
Listen,
love is love, Rob.
Now, I mean, listen, it's a 30-year difference. It's a 30-year difference, and she might, if he's a successful businessman, there may be a financial incentive there or whatever. But,
oh yeah.
But regardless, I'm not cheering for people to have that kind of situation and their family gets breaking up.
But
I'm
I mean,
not cheering
this
for
guy
it.
has to know what he's getting into.
But I'm like,
and here's the thing with this lady: she came here legally, and then her legal status lapsed, and so she's here illegally.
Correct.
Sorry, you didn't get married in time, brother. Like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, so she wasn't. I guess they didn't get married in time, as you said, and she didn't get that green card.
Listen to the rest of the report.
Fold. What went through your mind?
Well, I was just in total disbelief.
According to her immigration lawyer, Suarez Reyes came to the U.S. legally in 2023 and later applied for asylum, a case that is still ongoing. But her underlying permission to be in the U.S. has lapsed. Some people may say this is what mass deportations look like.
They're not going after the hard guys. That's too difficult. It's easier to pick them up at the airport.
Okay, they are going after the hard guys. Matter of fact, that's one of the criticisms of the folks on the right. Some of us are, some say we need to go after more than just the hardened criminals, right?
Yeah.
We need to go after stuff like this, which is exactly what's happening in this situation. I'm sorry, you were here legally, you let it lapse, you apply for asylum.
Well,
that whole asylum thing.
Yeah, you're talking about you were here legally. She came here in 2023. Undoubtedly through the CB1 app, right? Which was the most fraudulent thing that you can imagine.
And so if you honestly, the people that applied for asylum is probably the list. That's probably the list that Homeland Security is like, okay, the people who have applied for asylum, let's look, are they here illegally? We're getting rid of them.
Yeah.
Like it's literally probably a who's who to go get.
Right. I'm with you. I have no problem with a 75-year-old guy landing a 45-year-old big booty Latina. Like, I have no problem with that. Like, dude, you know, if that's what you want to go for and she's willing, go for it, man. But you came here claiming asylum, okay? We all know that asylum thing, 99.9999999% of the time, is complete BS.
Yeah.
We all know that. So, and she came under, I've said it many times on the show that these people that have been in the country for 20 years that have gone through the process and are trying to become legal or they have DACA and they renew their DACA and they're doing what they're supposed to do. I have a different feeling about that, and I may be alone on the conservative side, or I don't think I am, but there's not as many of us. Certainly you disagree with me, but there are to me that's different than those people that came in, the millions and the 20 million people that came in 4 years under Joe Biden, and she's one of them. And she came. This guy was at the very youngest 72 when this big booty Latina flies over here, and now they're engaged and all that stuff, and he's really upset about it. I get it. Listen, she was laying the sweet loving on him. Everything was going great. He was
that's what's kind of lost.
He was staying up a little later at night.
That's what's lost in all of this.
He had to renew his blue pill prescription. I mean, no offense. I mean, I'm not trying to pass judgment on you, dude.
Something like that could make somebody rethink who they voted for, I guess.
I guess, man. You're like, look. Do you know what my Friday nights look like before her? I was sitting at home watching TV and drowning my sorrows with a glass of Jack Daniels, and this big booty Latina flies over and she wants to marry me.
Look at this one. The alter ego says their argument now is that immigration is good for sugar daddy boomers. Who sponsored this hit piece? Viagra.
Yes, that's who did it.
Yeah,
dude. Here's the deal.
We'll be back after the break. Oh,
yeah,
Cialis.
Yes, and I've said this. If I find myself single in my 70s, I hope I can land a 30-year my junior big booty Latina. You know, that's what I want. Right? Give me that. Whatever. But so I'm not judging this dude. I'm like, dude, I understand. I'd be upset too. But at the same time, man, like, she wasn't supposed to be here in the first place. She came under false pretenses with this asylum. I'm going to go ahead and say that. Well, who was this woman? Was she the daughter of the police, chief of police in her hometown? Like, okay, and the chief of police arrested the drug leader, and so he has to get his daughter out of the country? That's true asylum.
Yeah.
That's true asylum.
Isn't that the plot for the movie Sicario?
I don't know. I haven't seen
Sicario
it.
2.
Regardless, look at that picture. Okay, now look, he looks like a wealthy businessman. Okay,
yeah,
he looks Italian to me.
Real serious.
Looks very Italian to me. But look who he's got. He's got some arm candy. I ain't that mad at him, dude. Go get you.
Yeah.
You know, but I'd be following her. I'd be
think
going back to her country.
What's funny though is, and I know it's CBS, and I know they have their, clientele or whatever, and their consumer are going to be the people that consume CBS News are going to be outraged by this, I guess.
Yeah.
But man, I think the average American looks at this and like, yeah, man. I mean, what did you think was going to happen, right? If you're here illegally, and I love how CBS says that, like she's here illegally. Okay, well,
thank you for saying that.
So ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
but then we're going to go bury the lead after that. you know?
Here is, real quick, we don't have a lot of time, but Borderline Insanity, you definitely wanted this one, Rob, in the show because you sent it to me. Here's Amy Klobuchar getting laughed at by her own constituents.
I've long believed and supported funding for Order at the Border, and I have worked well with law enforcement in Minnesota for years. But what
Quiet.
Wow. I've long...
So, here's
Oh, what's the matter, Amy? Do the people that out in that audience know the truth and your BS politician lie didn't work? Oh, my gosh. She's used to just saying whatever she wants to say and not getting pushback.
Yeah. Totally ignoring the fact that, I mean, I don't even care how she's voted. I mean, you represent a party that literally hates that position.
Yeah.
It's laughable. And by the way, it's just not true. You don't support that. Your party doesn't support that.
The first comment, quiet, sounds like a fascist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's calm this audience down. Let's silence this audience for busting out Amy Klobuchar.
All right, so we got to wrap things up and hand it over to Sean Farish. And I really do appreciate you being with us, Rob. I know that you've got to go for the second hour. You're out, but I will continue on in this push, but I appreciate it, sir. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday
morning.
All right, sounds good. Folks, I want to give a shout-out to our sponsors, Red Vive Health, New Horizon Real Estate, Gateway Sight and Sound, Pet Club 24/7, Sherrod Chiropractic, and we're going to press on. We're going to hand it off to Sean Farish. God bless everybody out there, and have a great weekend, and go to church. Remember, go to church.
The Paul Harrell Program.
For centuries, light has been used to heal. Awaken the body with Red Vive.
why is Red Vibe different? What sets it apart? What sets us apart from the standard red light panels? This is a medical grade device, and what that means is the red light bulbs and the near infrared bulbs have very specific wavelengths. If you think about the wavelength as the medicine, the 635, the 670, the 810, the 850, those were specifically chosen because those are the most powerful effectors of the cells. So those specific wavelengths, when they get into our body, when they affect our tissue, they spike energy production, they help with nerve pain control, they increase stem cell counts. There's very specific mechanisms that those specific wavelengths work at, and that's the medicine. So if you think of, say, medicine as an Advil or a specific steroid or a blood pressure medication, the wavelength is the medication. The other part of that, whenever you take a medication, is dose. Right? So you have the medication. So if you take 1 milligram of Advil, and the average dose of an Advil is 200 milligrams to 800 milligrams, it's not going to work. That doesn't mean the medicine's bad. It just means you didn't take enough. Right? And so even if you have the right wavelengths, first you have to have the right medicine, and then you have to have the right dose. And to have the right dose, you have, in light therapy, you have to have enough energy. So you have to have a powerful bulb. The LED bulbs, or light emitting diodes, have a specific wavelength, and that wavelength is the medicine. And the wavelengths that have been studied and published on that are the most powerful in affecting healing and the changes that we want to see with our bodies and our health are the 635 wavelength, the 670, 810 nanometer wavelength, and 850 nanometer wavelength. Those are all going to affect the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, and affect those powerful long-term changes and affect that downstream pathways. And that's what you get with Red Vibe devices. The highest efficacy, the best wavelengths, concentrated to help your health.
My name is John, and this is my beautiful wife, Lori, and this is our Star Wars Ewok. His name is Scout, and we have Scout for about 11 years now, and we started noticing about 3 years ago, he started slowing down. He was unable to jump on the bed. He was kind of a little bit grumpier. And when my daughters, Macy and Mariah, would take him on walks, he would walk for about, 30 yards, and then he'd lay down, and they'd carry him the rest of the way. So I heard about Pet Club 24/7 and about the products from a gentleman that I really trust and share a friendship with. And he mentioned to me that they have products that are going to help him with his arthritis, help him build his immune system. And I said, okay, no problem. Let's try them out. And I kid you guys not, within about 2 to 3 days, we started noticing a little difference. And then we took Scout on a walk probably about a week after we started using the products, the mush puppies, and he would walk the entire way. He would walk at least a mile, and it's just been completely amazing. He's a new dog. He's 11 years old, which is around 80 years in dog years, and he's just happy. He's more energetic. He's not the grumpy old man he used to be, and we're just so thankful. And it was perfect timing because we lost our boxer Yankee about 1.5 years ago, and it was really hard on us. So I'm so thankful for Pet Club 24/7 for the products that they offer. Imagine if you could have your best friend around one more day or one more week or even one more year. I'm so blessed and thankful that we were able to find this company and find these products for Scout. So thank you guys. Give it a shot. We appreciate you. God bless everyone.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, it is hour number 2 of the show. We do appreciate you guys being with us on this Friday. Happy Friday to everybody out there watching. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, so one of the things we forgot to do, we didn't get to finish. We kind of just a poorly planned hour, and I guess you can blame me for that, but we did not get to finish our segment that we were in the middle of, which is Borderline Insanity. So kind of resetting things here, in the wake of President Trump doing the right thing and trying to combat this birthright citizenship by banning birther tourism via executive order, so many things that are wrong with this country, so many of the domestic problems that we have, whether it's higher prices, and yes, inflation's a problem, but you look at rent, you look at incomes rising versus rent. I mean, I saw this chart the other day. Over the course of the last 20 years, it's just insane how much rent has risen versus income. And income in many places, goes up and then tanks as rent continues to go up. It's absolutely crazy what the American people are going through. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, speaks directly to this in this clip where he talks about how people don't want to admit it, but wherever ICE goes, rent goes down.
Communities when you get, and we don't know what it was it 10, was it 15, was it 25 million illegals? There's no new housing stock, so you saw rents go through the roof, and now the people don't want to admit it, but there are academic studies that show where ICE goes, rents go down.
That's exactly right.
Rents go down.
So
all right, but then you compare that with what we have seen, which is the coordinated mass invasion of the country. Call it the Great Replacement, which is not a conspiracy theory; it's in fact real. Just go read the left articles about how they go listen to that old speech that Bill Clinton gave when he was just like, by the year 2050, America will be a minority white country, and everyone's like, yay, yay! This has been the plan. This has been the plan. It's also the plan for Europe. So in the city of Ceuta, right, which is a Spanish city, and we covered this last week just briefly, that there is a situation over there where Morocco has essentially allowed, 80,000, I've seen numbers of 80,000, 60,000 Moroccans stormed into Spain last week. And the footage was compelling. The footage reminded me of my mind's eye when I read the book, The Camp of the Saints. And if you've not read Camp of the Saints, you definitely need to. Here's this article, though, from Zero Hedge giving us an update. If this is real, we are cooked. Authored by Steve Watson via Modernity News. There's now footage circulating purporting to be from the North African desert that shows what looks like an enormous column of sub-Saharan African men moving under escort. Some estimates put the number at 100,000. Commenters claim Algerian military vehicles and personnel are shepherding them toward the coast. If the scale and direction prove accurate, Europe faces another deliberate pressure wave on top of the chaos already unfolding in Ceuta. Somebody named Alex Phillips has this footage. Wait until they see what's coming. I said early on that Algeria with their best chums in Iran and Russia. Now, there is this, I will say here, there is this idea out there, and this article is very much geared towards, so I do need to address it, that this mass immigration is the plot of Russia and Iran. Now, I'm very skeptical of that. I'm very skeptical of this move to blame Iran or blame Russia. Now, it very could easily be that, but at the same time, when last week, and this is just point of fact, it's out there. At the same time that the immigrants were storming, Spain last week, you had people online, affiliated with the Israeli government that were celebrating this, and then there were some old tweets that were found saying, this is what you get for not supporting Israel. So there is that line of the story as well. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle, but I just wanted to put that out there, point of fact, and because there's also an effort right now going on to try to, I think, get the U.S. involved into a even larger war than we already committed to, by somehow tying the Middle East conflict with the Russia-Ukraine conflict as well. So I just wanted to be accurate. I wanted to present these both sides here. But the fact of the matter is there is an apparent invasion force amassing to further decimate Europe. That is true, and you can see this. You can see that here. Listen to the look at this. Look at this video here. All of those men. Now, these are not women. These are not children. These are, once again, military-aged men, and it is an invasion. You see this here. Naomi Wolf retweeting this as well. Additional clips from the same period show large groups being moved near the Moroccan frontier. One account framed the Algerian regime as collecting Africans from across the continent and directing them towards the border with Morocco, linking the timing to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's recent visit to Algiers. So at the same time, while we say, like, who's responsible for this, you can't really speculate without at least bringing up the Spanish government, the left-wing Spanish government that gave all of these illegals in their own country amnesty right before they started storming the Moroccan beach and invading Spain. That's a big portion too. And now the Spanish government is even saying, this is in the story too. Let's see if I can't find it. Well, anyway, they're now going to allow, if the people that are now in Ceuta, they're going to bring them into mainland Spain, allocating something like $25 million for this group. If they're children, they're going to bring them into Spain. Well, what classifies as a child? I don't know, but I would somewhere around probably 16, 17, 18 or below is considered a child. These desert images land against the still freshly reality of Ceuta. Late last week, an estimated 72,000 people, predominantly young men, stormed the Spanish enclave from Morocco by swimming around the Tarajal breakwater and scaling fences. Despite the claims of Spanish officials that most have been returned, thousands of sub-Saharan Africans remain on the beaches and around reception areas. And immediately when they got there, you see this photo here of them trashing the place. We had photos a week ago, probably Friday night, I saw this, where they were immediately trying to break into people's homes, getting on ladders, trying to break into windows, which should remind all of us to never give up our guns. In America, we never, ever, ever, ever are going to give up our guns. It's not going to happen. I don't care what kind of false flag. I don't care if they try to do Fast and Furious times 1,000. We're not going to do it. And I would just say this: in this country, in the United States of America, if they ever do try to take away our guns, I feel very sorry for the foot soldiers who will have to go door to door and do that. I feel very sorry for them. And yeah, I know with drone technology and all of the facial recognition in the data centers, we certainly will have the George Orwell type of dystopia on steroids. But I really do believe, particularly in the American South, that there will be many people, if that ever happens in this country, many people that would rather die on their feet than die on their knees. And I used to not believe that. I used to not believe that was true. I used to believe that the calculation that men go through every single day, how do I fight injustice? Well, most men, they will try to fight, within the democratic confines of the systems, and they'll try to fight injustice, but they'll ignore it to the point of actually, taking matters into their own hands because they don't want to abandon their family. They don't want to do something to get themselves killed and abandon their family. Who's going to take care of them? They don't want to do something to get themselves put in jail and thereby abandon their family. But when the equation tips, and now all of a sudden it is understood that that the risk of abandoning your family is not as great as doing nothing and consigning your family and yourself and your grandkids, your children's children, your posterity to live under slavery, then the equation begins to tip, and what you have is a catalyst for mass change. Morocco has refused to take them back, these people that invaded Spain last week. Spain has now allocated, 25 million euros, and they've indicated it will transfer those claimed as children to the mainland. So once these people get to Spain, they're not going to stay in Spain. They're going to go throughout Europe. Here is the media has gone silent about Ceuta, but there are still thousands of sub-Saharan Africans there. Morocco won't take them back. Here is a clip.
Thousands of migrants are still here in Ceuta, many on this beach. The beach El Trampolín is the nearest to the temporary shelter for migrants that is completely full.
Yeah. Looks like a third world hellhole. That's what they've made Spain, that area of Spain, in just a week's time. Parallel clips show sub-Saharan groups mobilizing after the Moroccan surge in Ceuta, with local media noting thousands. You see it here. Literally, they invade the country to then just lay around and do nothing. Essentially become homeless overnight. I don't know what their conditions were in Morocco. Probably not much better, but the beaches are now riddled, and you just see this now. And so this is all coming while, again, we have these reports, these new reports about an estimated 100,000 sub-Saharan men moving in the deserts right now, moving in Africa right now, preparing to invade Europe. So this piece ends by saying, it's from Modernity News, borders that are not enforced do not remain borders. The desert footage fits the same pattern of state-enabled movement. They're saying that governments are doing this. Governments are doing this in coordination with somebody. I mean, I've said this for years now. I was once talking to a leftist, and I said, hey, you ever stop and think like that every first world country is having a migration crisis? This was back in 2017, 18, 19. You ever stop and think that can't be a coincidence? That all of Europe, first world, America, first world is all being invaded with these, what we're told are caravans of people that are in some sort of humanitarian crisis. Don't you think that's intentional? Don't you think that is coordinated by, I don't know, George Soros or whoever, right? And but the fact is, the point was that this has got to be coordinated. This can't be a coincidence. And I get this whole, no, actually, it's these economic factors and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, well, let's assume that that's true. Can economic factors be manipulated? Yeah, by all of these central planners. And the more they plan, the more things fail. But what if the failing is the feature, not the bug? What if it's the whole point? And that's, of course, what it is. I mean, you look at the Federal Reserve and how we have essentially a controlled economy. We think it's, we're told it's free, or we're told we need to get back to free, but both sides don't want to say what the truth of the matter is that we need to end the Federal Reserve and that they control our economy the way we control our thermostats for now in our own homes. Well, we're going to set inflation to 72 degrees, 71 degrees, or whatever it is. And I'm just, quite frankly, sick of it. And this is, unfortunately, what Europe has to look forward to. This just in, Elon Musk is now criticizing the Red Cross after they got caught deleting a shocking video that praised a Muslim migrant. The Muslim migrant's name was Sharif Ahmadazi. So Ahmadazi immigrated to Britain. And before he did, though, there was a video. You see the Daily Mail headline, Red Cross deletes film about Afghan migrant now accused of killing British woman and hiding her body in a suitcase. The Red Cross put out a video, apparently, talking about the plight of said immigrant. They have now deleted that video in shame. But there's not enough shame to really go around.
He tried to travel to Greece, but the police arrested him and put him in jail for 3 days.
When I got out, I found smugglers who created another game for me to go to Greece. Finally, I made it.
Sharif has now been at a camp in Lesbos for 6 months.
Living in the camp is so hard. Sometimes when I think about living here, I get so crazy. I try to find somewhere calm, and then I cry a lot. I have an aunt in the United Kingdom, and she told me, I can take full responsibility of you if someone helps you to get to the UK, but if I can't get there, I don't know what will happen to me.
He tried to travel to Greece, but the police arrested.
And then, by the way, this is originally from Basil the Great. That's where that came from. Is that okay? So Basil, Basil the Great is a Restore Britain account, and for those of you that don't know, Basil is isn't he the Sherlock Holmes character in the Disney movie The Great Mouse Detective? I think that's where that came. That's that pop culture reference there. But yeah, he's the one that came out with this video. Made a lot of interesting content here over on his page. I was trying to find the actual video here to get a little bit more context on this. Seems like this is going to be a good follow. I'm going to need to follow this account real quick. But anyway, yeah. Elon Musk says, quote, "The Red Cross has far more positive branding than it deserves, and as organizations go, they would be on the leaderboard for suicidal empathy." That's what this is. Suicidal empathy, where you make a video about the plight of the immigrant Sharif, and then Sharif is arrested for killing a woman and stuffing her body in a suitcase. And so when you see this story about what's going on in sub-Saharan Africa and how they're amassing an invasion force, we all know, rinse and repeat. But here's the truth. We do not have to live this way. And you look at Spain and their left-wing government, you look at these other people that are, Germany or Britain or whatever, that are just so totalitarian at this point. And then I think about, I can't help but think about our constant funding of Ukraine and the money laundering that goes on there. We talk about our elections being rigged, and they are in a lot of respects. Tulsi Gabbard, Bill Pulte, they have proven it. I wish they went further, talking more specifically about the voting machines in 2020 than they did, but we all know what we saw. We all know. Folks, our elections are not secure, and neither are those of Europe. And I fundamentally believe that Europe has not been given the government that those people have been voting for a very long time, because they don't want to live like this. The outrage that we feel is the same. And I would say all these people that came over for the World Cup, they're going back home and realizing, wow, now that they know that the myths of America, that we in America are living off of the derivative fumes of our great forefathers, and we're lucky to have the little freedoms that we do have. We're lucky to have the prosperity and the full grocery stores that we do have, even though they're expensive. They're going back home and they're realizing, wow, we really do live in a communist country. But I think the Ukraine situation is connected here. I have long suspected, we know, that Ukraine before the war started was a giant money laundering depot for the intel agencies, for the deep state, for the NGOs, for all of that. Just basically a giant money laundering op. And I think a lot of that money laundering ends up in these European countries because they wanted Ukraine to become a member of NATO anyway. And I think it goes to rig their elections. Because at the end of the day, you can't rig elections without paying people off. You can't rig elections without money. Mark Zuckerberg knows a thing or two about that. Zuckerbucks. Mark Zuckerberg knows a thing or two about that. Something to think about. Okay, now, and we're going to have we'll have a future segment that more accurately details whatever we're going to call this. Bad intelligence. Very, very bad intelligence. But we don't actually have that one ready for you yet. But there's a little bit of a controversy brewing between the public and the Senate Intelligence Committee, specifically surrounding this grand jury that we know exists in the state of Florida. We know Joe DeGeneva, who knows where all the bodies are buried, is one of the prosecutors looking into John Brennan, among other people, about his treason. Let's just say about his treason, about all of it, whether it's the fake intel assessment that was ordered by Obama, whether it's about him lying. And so he's got this grand jury. All right. So apparently, according to these reports, this grand jury needs access to a transcript, a testimony that I'm assuming was done behind closed doors, of John Brennan and the Senate Intelligence Committee. Now, Paul Sperry says that his sources within the DOJ tell him that Senate GOP leaders John Thune and Arkansas's Tom Cotton are refusing to declassify a key John Brennan transcript in order to protect then Senate Select Committee Intelligence Chair Marco Rubio for a presidential run because Marco looks bad kissing Dem Vice Chair Mark Warner's expletive. But during the closed-door deposition in which Brennan allegedly perjures himself regarding the Obama Order 2016 ICA and Steele dossier. Now, That's what Paul Sperry says. Take that with a grain of salt about the Marco thing, but that's what he heard. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if it makes Marco look bad or not. I don't know. I will say this. Obviously, I'm not a supporter of the Iran war and everything else, but it was interesting to see Marco Rubio early on in the administration really pivot against a lot of his maybe former past positions and that sort of thing. But it's not just Paul Sperry who's saying this. But before we get to John Solomon, who's saying something very similar about this whole situation, Tom Cotton says this is false. He says, quote, "This report is completely false. John Brennan has a lot to answer for on the Russia collusion hoax, and I fully support President Trump's push for accountability and to get these documents to a grand jury. The release of Senate materials to a grand jury requires the passage of a Senate resolution, which I was working to secure until the incompetence and negligence of the Department of Justice and White House Legislative Affairs Office interfered and thwarted the president's goals. My committee will continue working with the administration on this matter, just as we have done from the beginning. And when Marco Rubio led the committee, he worked hard to expose and stop any misconduct in our intelligence agencies." So Tom Cotton says, this is false. I am working. As a matter of fact, I am for Trump. Just hear me. I'm for Trump. I'm for Trump. I'm for Trump. I'm for his agenda. That's what Tom Cotton says. Trust me. I'm for Trump. It's the Department of Justice that has people that are against Trump. It's the White House Legislative Affairs Council that have people against Trump. I just find it funny. Tom Cotton may be right. I just find it funny that this is why people criticize J.D. Vance trying to get peace in the Middle East and not directly Trump, because they're scared of going against Trump. So it's like this is the one thing where you get an actual denial. No. Oh, I look like I'm against Trump. Got to get it out there. Got to get it out there that I'm not. But here's John Solomon about this very thing. Listen to this.
I'm going to go back to being a reporter for a second. I do not know this information from anything I've gained in government. I can tell you with 100% certainty that Republicans are obstructing the investigation into weaponization. There are two Republicans I can name by name, Senator John Thune and Senator Tom Cotton. They have refused for months now. The first request came in late January, early February. They are refusing thus far to provide to Joe DeGenova, to the prosecutors in Florida, to the Miami U.S. Attorney, to the Justice Department, the transcripts of John Brennan's interviews with the Senate Intelligence Committee. They have refused to do so. I'm going to call out a third name because I don't understand the Justice Department's behavior. When a body that's separate of the executive branch doesn't comply, every other time in American history, go back to Iran-Contra, go back to Watergate, the Justice Department subpoenas the Congress. For some reason, the acting Attorney General, who wants to be the permanent Attorney General, has not authorized a subpoena to the United States Senate to get those documents.
Context clues. Did you hear that? The acting Attorney General, who wants to be the permanent Attorney General. There's the leverage. So Solomon is saying that acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has an incentive to not cooperate with this, so he doesn't make the intelligence oligarchy senators upset. That's what John Solomon is saying here. Now, admittedly, I've been very skeptical in recent weeks of John Solomon, just because, I enjoy Just the News. I cover Just the News when it's relevant. I cover his reporting, but it's a little exhausting. Accountability is coming and it never does. I think this report is interesting because it's explaining why. It's giving us at least one answer, one idea as to why the accountability that we all want to see, holding the intel oligarchy, bringing it to heel, holding it to account, is not happening. Now, I'll reserve my next comments for after the rest of the clip.
The Justice Department subpoenas the Congress. For some reason, the acting Attorney General, who wants to be the permanent Attorney General, has not authorized a subpoena to the United States Senate to get those documents. Those documents will allow the prosecutors in Miami to decide whether the charges are warranted against John Brennan. The idea that Republican senators will not cooperate with the Republican administration is ridiculous politically, but it's illegal. It's obstruction. There ought to be a grand jury subpoena sitting in the Senate clerk's office, and there ought to be a court case yesterday compelling this because the Justice Department has been delayed by 8 months by 2 Republican senators who have the responsibility and the ability to deliver this. You want to get to the grand conspiracy case, you need the missing evidence, and the Senate possesses it. And as of this date, I can find no evidence they've turned it over. And there is no grand jury subpoena because the clerk of the Senate would have to report it publicly. I just checked the congressional record again today. So Todd Blanche, Tom Cotton, John Thune, you got some explaining to do to the War Room posse. I'm going to go back.
Wow. That's infuriating. If that's true, it's infuriating. It's regardless of who's responsible. Regardless. If it's Tom Cotton, if it's John Thune, if it's the White House internal or legislative affairs, if it's the Justice Department, whatever. Solomon says it's been 8 months, and he's right because this grand jury. We heard whispers that this grand jury on this grand conspiracy, weaponization conspiracy against Trump, was going to be impaneled the first of the year. We heard it back in December of 2024 or 2025, and here we are in August, and they can't get the documents from the Intel oligarchy. Color me shocked. Color me surprised. Full transparency, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche responds to this tweet by Tony Saruga. John Thune and Tom Cotton are blocking DOJ from obtaining Brennan transcripts before U.S. Senate committees, impeding investigation into former CIA chief. With friends like John Thune and Tom Cotton, who needs enemies? John Solomon from Just the News broke the news on Wednesday that Majority Leader John Thune and Senator Tom Cotton are blocking DOJ investigator Joe DeGeneva from obtaining the transcripts of John Brennan's interviews with the Senate Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. This is holding up the investigation into Brennan and his role in the deep state coup to take down President Trump in 2016. Apparently, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche refuses to authorize a subpoena to the U.S. Senate to obtain the documents. What's going on? John Solomon broke the news earlier on Wednesday on the War Room. To this tweet by Tony Saruga, Todd Blanche responds. And Todd Blanche says, we appreciate the cooperative relationship we have with Leader Thune and Chairman Cotton and the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. There is no daylight here, he says, and suggestions to the contrary are ill-informed. We look forward to continue working productively together over the next 8 months. It's probably going to be another 8 months with these knuckleheads. But interestingly that Todd Blanche says, man, everything's great with me and Tom Cotton. But if we go back over here to Tom Cotton's statement, Tom Cotton says, the release of the Senate materials to the grand jury requires the passage of a Senate resolution, which I was working to secure until the incompetence and negligence of the Justice Department and the White House. So that's interesting. Interesting. Tom Cotton is blaming the Department of Justice, while the Department of Justice says, we love Tom Cotton and we love to work with him. It's like that Spider-Man meme. You know the Spider-Man meme? Where, you know, they got 3 or 4 Spider-Mans, and they're both pointing at, everybody's pointing at everybody else. Boy, this is interesting. This is interesting. This is like, I mean, this is juicy stuff, in my opinion. But it's real interesting because now the politics become involved. Because now, if this stuff goes mainstream, you're starting to think, wow, I mean, you say what you want to about whether it's right or wrong and whether it's as black and white as a lot of people like to make it. But President Trump still has a base. President Trump still has people that really get mad, really get PO'd when their representatives are bucking him and are trying to essentially become red tape tyrants. Matter of fact, that I should have led with. I should have led with. Our government officials, like Tom Cotton, according to these reports, or John Thune, according to these reports, or Todd Blanche, according to these reports, are essentially operating, we're to believe, as bureaucrats, where the American people don't get what we voted for when it comes to accountability and holding the intelligence agencies accountable because they're just red tape tyrants. But there's something else that you have to consider here. There's something else that you must consider here when we talk about this stuff. And that is the B word. I'm talking about blackmail. Blackmail. Anybody that wants to seriously have a conversation about the intelligence oligarchy and bringing it to heel and why we can't seem to do it and why we can't seem to ever get any of these people who are clearly involved in crimes in jail is because it's the intel community and they've set up a system of mass surveillance and they love to surveil politicians and their private affairs. And I don't think you can really have this conversation without talking about, at this point, it is not slanderous because we're not saying it definitively. It is not sensational, and it is not it's not unreasonable. Washington, D.C. runs on blackmail. That's what the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing was. And obviously there are various tiers. And they're different people. It's not just Epstein that was collecting blackmail or working for the intelligence agencies or whatever. There's a lot of it out there. There's a lot of people that's their goal. This is their job, right? If your job is to do whatever you want as a bureaucrat in the intelligence oligarchy, then you're going to commit significant resources to policing those whose job it is to police you and provide you oversight. And that is why it is in the intelligence oligarchy's best interest to make sure those who are sitting in the intelligence committee, on the intelligence committees, the Gang of Eight, if you will, to have dirt on every single one of them. And I'm sorry, in this day and age, with what we have seen, whether it's stolen elections, framing Trump for treason, the color revolution, the intelligence oligarchy used against the American people, COVID-19, all of it, creating the virus ourselves, sending it to China, blaming it on China, all of it. Whatever it is, I think the path to accountability means the whole system comes down because they operate in a world where everybody has blackmail on everybody else, and they like it that way because it makes sure that they get to keep their power. They get to keep their power. And I will just reiterate what the Last Refuge said on this topic a couple of weeks ago. We covered it on the show. He went over the Gang of Eight, which includes Tom Cotton and others. And he said, out of all of the Gang of Eight, there is only one person who doesn't appear to be afraid of the intelligence community, the intelligence oligarchy, and that's another Arkansas connection, Arkansas Congressman Rick Crawford. And I would agree with that because Rick Crawford is a friend of this show. And he sat in that chair right there where Eric normally sits, and he told us that he ruffled some feathers when he worked with Tulsi Gabbard to release those two reports. One of them with Eric's CIA Ramella and the whole phony impeachment scam, and the other where he highlighted that, where he revealed, thanks to his intelligence report working with Tulsi Gabbard, revealed that Obama's the one that ordered the Russia collusion hoax and the fake intelligence assessment, and that Russia actually had more dirt on Hillary Clinton. They didn't have any on Trump. It also revealed that Hillary Clinton was partnering with Christian organizations to try to leverage their parishioners to vote for her. Also revealed that Hillary Clinton was prone to fits of rage, that if you read the report, it really sounds more like demon possession than it does any sort of corporeal problem. It seems like a very deep spiritual problem to me. But I'm disgusted with it. I know you're disgusted with it, but once again, this is how D.C. works. And I today can sit here and say I'm thankful that people are they're at least talking about it. We've been hearing about this. I've been hearing about this grand jury in Florida for all the entire year, and we're into August now. So, a week from now, we're going to be in the middle of August. The month of August will be half over a week from now. So it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. What am I going to do next? Let's see here. I've got so many stories that I can get to here. Real quick before we go, let me check the morning headlines just so I haven't missed anything. Let's see what this one is. I think I already had this story pulled, but that'll go well with this other one here. All right, well, let's go to. Forgive me, folks, for just a minute. All right, if Rob had to go. Rob, if you're listening, I am saving your trans women are men segment for Monday because I know you wanted to be here for that. So I'm saving your particular trans women or men segment for Monday, and instead we will skip to Fourth Amendment funeral. That's actually not a bad transition considering we were just talking about the Intel oligarchy. Over at Zero Hedge, once again, we have this headline. Researcher finds a back door on Chinese-made routers sold worldwide. Cybersecurity company Vluncheck said on August 5th that it found that more than 20 models of a Chinese-made wireless router sold worldwide contain a hidden backdoor that could allow unauthorized access to devices connected to the network. The finding adds to growing Western concerns about cybersecurity risks posed by Chinese-made networking equipment. Western governments have warned for years about hackers exploiting such devices, and U.S. regulators moved this year to restrict imports of foreign-made routers. Jacob Baines, chief technology officer at Vluncheck, who found the back door, said in a blog post that the vulnerability, dubbed Endless Doors, affects routers manufactured by Shenzhen Zibotong Electronics and sold under ZBT-Link or ZibLink and Wi-Flyer brand names. Routers serve as the gateway between internet-connected blah, 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 blah. We know what routers are. Baines estimates that at least 100,000 such routers are deployed worldwide. The backdoor Baines discovered automatically, quote, dials the same tiny sets of endpoints, end quote. Baines said in a blog post at the company's website, whoever controls those domains could take control of the router and potentially use it to access other devices on the same network. Baines said most people who order this router and use it for their small businesses or home office would likely have no clue that it would allow this sort of access. He says, if I have it in my lab in my university, you just invited them straight into your lab and they can roam the network as they choose. The capabilities are devastating. Western governments have warned about Chinese-linked hackers abusing small office and home routers and other internet devices to gain access to networks for later intrusions as well as cyber espionage. So you got to be careful out there. You know, years ago. I'm sorry. I thought we had the split on the whole time. My apologies. So years ago, I remember there was that story that broke about the flashlight apps. Do you remember when, if you've got an iPhone, then you have the flashlight. You have a flashlight if you want to use your flash, right? It's just kind of built into the operating system. But then Android phones did not have that. Now they may have it now, but I don't think they do. And so if you want to use a flashlight, you got to have a flashlight app. So you go and you download. Well, there were so many apps on the Google App Store of flashlight apps back in the day. So many of them. Like ridiculous amounts of flashlight apps. There's no way, you needed that. And because all it's doing is, hey, this enables you to turn your flash on so you can use it as a flashlight if you want it. And there was a big story back in the day about how they were all Chinese apps. And if you downloaded the flashlight app, now China had, access to everything. No, it's not lost on me that this segment is called Fourth Amendment Funeral, and we're not exactly talking about the United States. Obviously, we don't have a right to privacy in China, but it is incumbent upon us to secure the federal government's job is to secure our rights. And in this case, with the way data works, that's obviously when you're talking about sovereign wealth and sovereign governments, that's a much taller order to secure, but it is happening. And at the same time, you have the context of the surveillance state that we have set up and are making even worse in the name of trying to beat China in this AI arms race, while at the same time, China is still allowed to own land next to her own military bases. So I'm very skeptical that this is really about beating China. I know people say that it is, but I'm very skeptical. I see more of as I've talked about before, of these governments that are not monolithic. I see there are factions in different governments that are working towards the same goal in conjunction with one another, whether knowingly or unknowingly. It seems to work as some sort of global chain gang prison system that they're setting up, is what it looks like to me, and I am not here for it, and I'm sounding the alarm on it. And I was talking to a guy the other day who's part of a new startup that's trying to raise awareness that we've got this rise of AI with no guardrails, and it's a very real problem, and you're going to see people from every background start to become aware of this, because how it could totally alter our society and the concept of privacy. And with the internet the way it is and us walking around with phones, I mean, the Fourth Amendment really is dying before our eyes in a way that I mean, even I'm shocked by it as somebody who stutters. That's funny. As somebody who studies this for a living and studies politics and, I'm passionate about the Bill of Rights and that sort of thing. In the meantime, though, we do have this Flock story. This is very much in line with the Fourth Amendment funeral. Nearly 5,000 people have publicly given alibis for a man accused of vandalizing flock cameras in Georgia. When police asked the public for help finding him, the public responded with, quote, "He was delivering food to the elderly that night. He was mowing my grandma's lawn at 11:15 p.m. He was at my barbecue. Couldn't have been him." Police have since canceled the bolo, saying the suspects have been identified, but there has been no word on whether the suspects were arrested or charged. This is we're now getting into Robin Hood territory. The flock camera vandalism is now getting into Tea Party, legitimate Tea Party, like the not just the taxed enough already. I'm talking about Boston Tea Party level Robin Hood, steal from the rich, give to the poor. In this case, you're stealing from the rich by vandalizing the flock camera and giving the poor the freedoms that private corporations are taking from us, doing what the government can't do. But we all know the line between the government and the corporations is essentially transparent at this point, because if anything is networked, the government has access to it. The government does not let any new technology available for public consumption unless they have a backdoor to it, unless they have some sort of control. Edward Snowden taught us that in 2013. I am fascinated. This kind of goes back to the whole Second Amendment door-to-door gun confiscation thing, how it would never work. The fact that people, I'd never thought, it's wild to me how intact the spirit of America is with the average person if they're willing to go and risk their safety, risk their imprisonment to tear down a flock camera. In the name, the only reason you don't do, I mean, maybe some people do it just because they want to vandalize things, but the people that are doing this are doing it because they believe two things. I'm an American and I have a right to be left alone. That's literally, as much as, we've seen government grow and corporations grow and everything, like over our lifetime, and obviously since the Federal Reserve came to being in 1913, it is encouraging that there are still people out there that obviously believe this. And they're willing to cut down a flock camera to do it. Some of them are even leaving little American flags. The one that got cut down over the 4th of July, they left a little American flag where the flock camera used to be. We got to, and you hear the other. Well, they're not saying this, but this is my I guess you could call it a straw man, but that I don't really care, because practically speaking, we've got to take your freedom away in order to save people, in order to make us safe. We got to take your freedom away. That is fundamentally what this argument is about. I don't care how many people I don't know how many things you can tell me about, well, we saved this person or we found this criminal or everything else. And look, I mean, I'm all for ICE doing what ICE needs to do, but I'm sorry if you're saying, well, you need to be comfortable with having your whole life surveilled and documented when you're driving on the streets and the roads. You just got to be comfortable with that so that we can catch criminals. I actually demand better for my government. I demand more for my government. I demand you do both. I demand you protect my Fourth Amendment and also deport as many people as you can. I want both, actually. So this is a surveillance state. We are seeing the stone feet of the giant statue of surveillance. Maybe we're actually looking at the knees about right now. Edward Snowden was the feet, and we were just looking down like, oh my goodness, look at this, and you look up and you're like, wow, they have built a system to enslave humanity. They have built a system to enslave humanity. That much is true. That much is true. Then we also have this surveillance pricing. Wall Street Apes writes, I literally gasped watching this. American bought a cheap phone, hired someone to use it in a poor neighborhood, and then visited places acting like they have no money. After a day, the apps on that phone had cheaper prices than normal people.
Data and what they think they know about you. It's price. Big tech is secretly overcharging us based on your personal data and what they think they know about you. It's price gouging, predatory, and evil. So I decided to fight back and trick the data into giving me lower prices. And my first step was to become someone else, or I guess something else. So I used the Wyoming corporate loophole and hired a registered agent to set up an LLC on my behalf to hide me from the system.
That's that extra layer of privacy you're looking for.
I named the new entity after someone that looks like they would have less money than they actually do to trick big data into thinking I'm poor, therefore I have less money to spend. So I named the new entity Frank Reynolds, which I could then get a credit card for, which I then used to buy the cheapest possible smartphone, which costs only $20. Or I guess it's changed to $30 since filming this. It's called the Track Phone, which is perfect because I wanted this phone to track everything I do. So I went to the lowest income zip code in Minnesota to activate the phone and opted in to all tracking options. But I needed to give this phone data to trick these pricing algorithms. So I made a Craigslist post seeking an improv actor to portray someone with the lowest intent to purchase everything. And I can't emphasize this enough. I found the perfect person.
Hello, Comrade Tripp here.
That's his actual name. So we arranged to meet at a parking lot. That's when I gave Comrade Frank's track phone and Frank's credit card, and Comrade was now Frank Reynolds. Frank Reynolds LLC, at least. And his mission was to trick the phone and all of the data watching him into giving him a better deal than me. What he didn't know is that I would also be watching him, so I could figure out exactly what he did. He downloaded the MTA bus app, but he didn't actually buy a ticket and instead took the bus for free to Dinkytown, where all the poor college kids live, signaling to data brokers that he really didn't want to buy anything. He then went into McDonald's, where he downloaded the app and Googled cheapest item at McDonald's, and then again didn't buy anything and just asked for water.
Hi, I just wanted a water. Water? Yeah, there's, please.
For 4 hours, Frank went business to business, asking and searching on his phone for free stuff.
I was wondering, how much would just a cup of brown rice be?
Just a cup of brown rice is free.
Oh, okay.
The only thing he actually bought was a single banana from the Target app and ended up giving it to these guys.
Hey, did that guy just give you something?
Oh, just give you a banana. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's nice.
Then we met up back at the parking lot to see if his prices would finally be cheaper than mine.
We're going to test the Uber, right?
Yeah. Okay, go from here to Union Depot.
Yeah, about $3 cheaper for Uber X.
So that phone is $3 cheaper?
Yeah.
On average, Frank's prices on Uber were 11% lower than mine. Comrade was a genius.
Oh, here you go.
What's this?
Yeah, never pay for sugar.
And this whole thing was just step 2 in a 3-part plan where I tried to trick big data into giving me a better deal than my other self. It's a whole YouTube video where I actually ended up getting an even better deal than this, so you'll have to go check that out. Sorry.
This dynamic pricing, charging...
So literally, what this is communism, but literally nobody, like Congress hasn't passed any laws. Congress hasn't actually instituted this type of stuff. I mean, you've heard about the progressive tax code, right? Which I think is actually unbiblical. Biblical principles of partiality should dictate that the tax code should be the same for everybody. But this is the version of the progressive tax code that Obama and everybody talks so much about and loves, forced on consumers without anybody ever voting for this. This is what corporations have decided to do. But again, the veil between corporations and government is transparent. The line between the two is not black and white at all. So corporations are doing what the government can't do, and they're doing it in secret. They're doing it under our noses. There are reports that prices are disappearing from clothing in some big box stores, and it basically you just scan the barcode to find out what the price is, and depending on who you are, depending on the zip code of where you're at, or the zip code your credit card is registered to. The same thing with airlines. There's a lot of people. By the way, people are now doing this. If you want to go buy an airplane ticket, they're saying you should go buy one at a public library, because the algorithm or their surveillance pricing is going to assume that you are very poor if you're having to buy an airplane ticket at a library. They're assuming you don't have an internet connection of your own. Now, I don't know if that'll last for much longer, because now that's out. I'm telling you about it here on the show, but and there's a viral video clip out there about that. But it is it's just insane, man. Like we're literally, the digitizing of America has now, and it won't be long before they ban cash. It will not be long since they ban cash. Cashed a check the other day and it had some cents on it, like 8 cents, and they were just like, we're not giving, we don't do pennies anymore, okay? So it's just like you just lose 8 cents. Like, what in the world? What the world is going on? Maybe the bank should lose 10 cents. How about that? How about the bank loses 10 cents? Just gives me 10 cents instead of the 8 cents. Give me a dime. It won't be long before they do that, and cash is a great way to still be anonymous. Or at least for some, lack of... The problem, though, is that, look, I think history is going to reflect that we lost the battle because of this. History is going to reflect we lost the battle because we all carried around this, and the corporations have already done to us what the government can't legally do. Making us put tracking devices, and, they listen to everything. Everything's listened and recorded, and they're listening to me right now. I saw an ad last night of some random thing I was talking about with a family member. Saw an ad for it. So it's a thing, it's a real thing, and it's happening. Folks, that's all the time that I have for this edition of the Paul Harrell program. It's been a great 10 hours of broadcasting with you. Really do appreciate it. I want to give a reminder, a shout out to our sponsors, Gateway Sight and Sound, New Horizon Real Estate, Pet Club 24/7, Sherrod Chiropractic. Also want to remind you that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. Go to healingveteransproject.us, scan the promo code, the QR code, and donate. Also, if you are a business owner, I want to partner with you, and I want to find a way to get your customers at their point of sale to donate to Veterans Project, Healing Veterans Project, lighting the path to wellness for our veterans. Also, go to church. If you don't go to church, please do find a church that preaches the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and his mighty ability to save sinners. And we will see you on Monday. Thanks for watching.